Hey there gamers, Dreamcastguy here, and today we're talking about Split Fiction because this game is currently the highest rated game in all of 2025, at least, for the first couple months, and I just beat it. I have some thoughts, but I might be a bit more negative than some of the other reviews have been because I am a massive fan of the studio. I've beaten everything that Hazelight has ever produced. Everything from It Takes Two to The Brothers to A Way Out. They're a studio that specializes in something that I feel like nobody else really has the guts to attempt. Forced co-op. You see how this is split screen? I'm technically the character here on the right, and everything about this game is completely split screen. There's a couple segments where you share a screen because there's a boss fight or a cutscene like that, but this is forced co-op. You can't play by yourself. You actually have to sit down with a friend and conquer it. But I feel like Split Fiction, it does a lot of stuff better than other Hazelight games. It's more fun, it's more flashy, it's got way better graphics, but at the same time, I almost think the story is one of the not as good. I don't want to say worse. It's not as good as their other tales they've told, but let's break it down. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's begin with what Split Fiction is and why you're seeing such a radically different graphics in a game that seems kind of straightforward. So, Split Fiction is the tale of two separate characters, Mio and Zoe. They're two people that are trying to get published. They've written books, one sci-fi, one fantasy, and now they're going to this big publishing house to try to pitch their books to hope they get a big book deal. But instead of just saying, hey, explain it to me or show me some chapters, they have invented a piece of technology that lets your story come to life. It's basically like a big VR booth, but somehow Mio and Zoe, a terrible accident, they've fallen into the same pod. So now, instead of just having their story come to life, their stories begin to glitch. They begin to bend. And it's not just one story, it's a bunch of different vibes all at once. So you'll be going from a cyberpunk future, driving down the side of a freaking skyscraper on a freaking G-bike from Final Fantasy VII, and then going straight into like a whimsical fantasy tale where you're playing as fairies and fishes and stuff. Now, it may sound like that would be tonal whiplash, that you would feel yourself kind of getting jerked about by these constant switching of tones, but it never quite feels like that. I feel like what Split Fiction does incredibly good is, while being a puzzle platformer with fun combat and stuff, I feel like it keeps itself centered on that forward momentum. Now, the way that this machine works is that it turns out as you're playing the game, and this isn't a spoiler, it's not just tapping into your current tale. It's not just the book they're trying to publish. It glitches. It starts to take all sorts of different stories. Short stories, little things they wrote as kids. So while you're playing through this game's 8 main chapters, it takes about 12 hours to beat the game itself, there are constant optional side stories that are so incredibly fun. I had one where I was basically endued, trying to avoid sandworms and trying to make noise so that my teammate can try and escape, and then drawing them my way so then I can jump on a freaking giant sandworm's back and try and surf around. There was one where we became pigs, and one pig had the ability to stretch, the other pig had the ability to fart fly, and we had to try and beat a bunch of puzzles to become dinner. Every freaking story, every main story, every side story, you'll notice that the focus is fun. Everything about this game is so ridiculous, but because it's permanently co-op, what works best about this is that both of the characters in every story have different abilities. Like, for the first couple chapters, there's this big cyberpunk adventure, and while you're there, one of them has a sword that lets them teleport so they can, flash behind people and chop up enemies, whereas I got a gravity whip that let me throw huge explosive cop cars or, throw a ball to unlock the next door and stuff like that. Everything has this beautiful balance where I feel like a lot of times when people talk about replayability in co-op games, they're like, you're going to want to replay it at least twice to see everything. This is the first co-op game I've played in a while where I legitimately want to play it again to see the other side. I was playing this with my buddy. I beat this with my buddy, and both times, as we were going through this, we kept actually arguing about who was having more fun. Like in one of the worlds, it's completely dragon themed, and while we were going through it, we kept debating. He had the power of flight. I had basically a dragon grapple hook. And we kept playfully debating who is possibly having more fun because both of us are just having such a blast. It's one of those things where at the same time I'm jealous. Like, man, I wish I had your powers. Man, I wish you could try my powers because they're so incredibly fun. But the real focus of Haze-like games is that sense of companionship. The whole idea of forced co-op, it's not an accident. This is part of the vision of Haze-like. Now, here is the one problem with the game that to me didn't really work until the very, very end of it. In every other Haze-like game, the characters already know each other. In A Way Out, you're playing as two guys trying to break out of prison. In It Takes Two, you're a couple going through a divorce who get magically turned into toys and have to go on a whimsical adventure to try and patch things up. Whereas in here, for the first time, you are complete strangers. And it does take about half of the game to really kind of warm up to these characters and see them sort of like come out of their shells and finally warm up with each other. And I didn't really like it that much, just in the fact that it took so long for the story to kind of get going that even though I was having fun, I didn't have that immediately connected character like I had in every other Haze-like game. But let's talk about Mio and Zoe. So Mio, she's very much the stern, no-nonsense, kind of rude one. She's the one who's writing all the sci-fi. And as you get to know these characters, you understand their backstories, their traumas, their struggles, and you get their behavior. Whereas Zoe, she's the blonde-headed one, she's the one I actually played as, she's the one who's very much cheery. She's very happy-go-lucky. She would rather go into a hard situation smiling than instantly be pissed and say, yeah, this is why everything turns out bad. And they kind of rub off on each other. Whereas one of them keeps writing big action-adventure stories. Originally, Zoe's like, I don't want to keep fighting all these people. I don't want to become a cyber ninja. I don't want to go on a quest for revenge. But they have so much fun, and they slowly open up. They slowly talk about how they've been inspired to make this game, how they wrote these stories, how they really came to the conclusion that these worlds need to exist. I feel like what works best about this game is that I feel like split fiction helps people kind of process the difficulty of art, especially in the video game industry. There is so much stuff that gets closed, shut down, constant layoffs, and not to get into all that, but this almost feels like a rebuttal to that cold, boring, heartless industry. This is a passion project. This is quirky, it's weird, it's beautiful, it runs great on Xbox, on PS5, on PC, but even more than that, it is a game that exists because of love, because of stories, because it wants to show you something that you have not seen before. And I feel like they convey that really well. There's so many homages, of references, of Easter eggs, and while I was going from side story to main story to big chapter to big cutscene to next big reveal, I really found myself kind of just appreciating the fact that this is a game that doesn't care if you like it. This is a game that doesn't, expect you to just sit there and opine. It just says, here is exactly what I want to make. Take it or leave it. And I love that so much. I really feel like Split Fiction is a game where if you play a lot of games, this is going to surprise you. If you read a lot of books, especially as a person that was in the book business for 10 years and with obviously book tattoos all over my freaking body, they made so many references, so many notes to different eras of fiction, classical literature, modern day, contemporary. I like the fact that, honestly, Split Fiction is fun. The powers are fun, the levels are fun, but even more than that, it's the kind of game that I respect for being so damn bold. Maybe not as good as It Takes Two, maybe not as good as A Way Out, but I mean, trying to compare it to some of the best co-op games of all time, it's not quite as good as them, but it's 99% as good as, and you know what, you gotta give credit for that. Okay, so, short and sweet of it, If you haven't seen this game, if you haven't played this game, give it a shot. If you buy one copy of it, your friend can play for free. It has cross-play as well. So if somebody gets it on Xbox, somebody can play it on PS5, somebody can play it on PC. This is one of those games where they know that they have a banger on their hands. And now that I've beaten it, I legitimately want to do another playthrough. I just beat it on Xbox Series X. I want to buy it on PlayStation 5 and pop all the trophies. I platinumed their other games. I want to platinum this. I loved this game. I loved it, which isn't a huge shock because I love the other games as well. But I really think that everybody who wants something different, give it a shot. But okay, we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Split Fiction a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. And thank you to Electronic Arts for the early review code. I've had this for a couple days, so sorry my review is, I think it's going up the day before launch or the day of launch, but it's good. Go play it. Go have your mind blown. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.